Hello and welcome to my review of Warcraft, the beginning. First of all, this film could be reviewed in a few short seconds. It's pretty much exactly what you think it is. However, as I quite like the sound of my own voice, I'm going to delve a little bit deeper. The basic story is that there are a race of muscular beings called orcs who are being chased out of their home for reasons that are barely worth going into. They decide to make a new home in the middle of an area where some humans already happen to be living, and they are understandably a bit miffed. And this leads to a series of confrontations as grandiose in execution as they are unimaginative in conception. The battles have not been choreographed or designed with any real flair or innovation, and the characters aren't developed enough for us to care what happens to them anyway. So that means there's no dramatic tension. They're also fairly bog standard cliches. There is an orc who realises that his race is going to have to try cooperation if they're going to survive, and there's a human who understands that perhaps the threat lies elsewhere. Having said all that, the visions in this are pretty spectacular, but there are so many special effects shots in this film that you wonder whether special even applies anymore. They might as well have just made it an animated film. And in fact, a motion capture film like Beowulf by Robert Zemeckis a few years ago would have been absolutely perfect for this film. However, because they've tried to keep it live action, none of it feels real. Everything's CGI, so nothing has any sense of presence. The characters are wearing armour that either isn't real metal or I suspect it's just CGI added in later, so they should be encumbered by about 50 kilos of ironmongery, and they're floating about like Muhammad Ali in his heyday. And because the orcs are entirely CGI, they have no sense of mass or inertia, so these huge slabs of muscle don't give any real sense of impact whenever they hit anyone, and they spend most of the film hitting one person or another. Dominic Cooper in this film plays the king, a brave, stoic and fairly bland king. He's the least regal monarch I've seen in a film since King Louis. Travis Fimmel plays a dedicated knight with the twinkle in his eye that Travis Fimmel always have. His character has a son who joined the guard so that his father would be proud of him. If you don't know how that ends, I suspect you've never seen a film before. Paula Patton plays the random green Orion slave girl, random green orc slave girl, who seems very well adjusted considering she spent her entire life in slavery to a savage, violent race who consider her less than a person. I'm assuming this because any sort of moral questions or character developments might detract the audience from orc smashy puny humans. The actors are really just walking through their parts, and I don't think it's entirely their fault. The script doesn't give them an awful lot to do. The script itself is plain and unimaginative and exists seemingly just to hang our increasing yet family-friendly carnage on. That being said, there are a few points I think are worth mentioning. First, at one point a very heavily pregnant orc woman hides her pregnancy so that she can take part in a war band into an unknown, hostile land. Now, I'm assuming that orcs and humans have different attitudes towards danger, but that still seems like some pretty shoddy parenting. Naturally, this kind of film climaxes with an epic battle, even more epic and battle-y than the previous epic battles. This one has its climax in a moment between two characters, which I don't want to spoil, but it makes absolutely no sense. They obviously wanted to leave this movie segueing into a sequel. Instead of writing their way there skillfully, they decided to just strap on some water skis and jump the shit out of that shark. I can't help but feel if there are going to be firearms in a sword and sorcery world, their introduction should be a little bit more than 30 seconds of perfunctory dialogue, if for no other reason than recent news stories constantly remind us that guns are anything but innocuous. A large part of this movie is involved with something called the Fel, which seems to be a type of orc magic. It's not even close to adequately explained, nor do they even come close to explaining why there seems to be a floating city full of wizards not doing anything. I don't know anything about Warcraft or World of Warcraft. I haven't played anything since Warcraft 3, when most of the people watching this may well not have been alive. So I don't know if this is explained in the backup. Let's try that again. In the movie there's a type of magic called the Fel. I have no idea what that is because the movie didn't care to explain. Nor did it care to explain exactly what is happening in this floating city full of wizards. What are they there for? What are they doing? Could they perhaps, I don't know, helped in any way against the evil sorcerer trying to exterminate the human race? Just a thought. And this last problem is, I admit, just a bugbear of mine, and I know that logically I can't really complain about it, but fantasy doesn't work with American accents. It just doesn't. It completely shatters any illusion. American actors get all the juicy space captain roles, but when swords are drawn, it should be left to the old countries. So, to sum this one up, either if you're dead set on seeing this film, make sure you see it in the cinema, because 95% of what's worth seeing won't be worth seeing on DVD. However, instead, if you want to see a really good adaptation of a video game into film, my recommendation is for Silent Hill. It's directed by Christophe Gans, and it's a wonderful piece of horror. Thanks for watching.